In the village of Nkwabi, there was a time when the land thrived in perfect harmony with the people. It was said that the spirit of the harvest, known as Odinaka, watched over the village's crops. Every year, the villagers would offer their first fruits to Odinaka in gratitude, leaving the first ripened maize and yams by the edge of the forest, untouched and unharvested by human hands. They believed that the spirit would bless the fields with abundance for the rest of the year. I remember it like it was yesterday, for it happened just a few seasons ago, when my own cousin, Tunde, a young farmer with great ambition, decided to challenge the ancient customs of our people. Now, Tunde wasn't like the other men in the village. He was driven by dreams of wealth, of owning more land and taking his crops to the city to sell. He would tell anyone who would listen that the old ways were holding him back. Why leave the best crops for the spirit when I could sell them for a good price? He would argue. Isn't it our hard work that brings us the harvest? Why must we rely on spirits? I still remember the day he made his decision. The harvest season had come, and the entire village was preparing for the sacred ritual of offering the first fruits. Everyone, from the youngest child to the eldest elder, took part in gathering the first ripe yams, maize, and plantains, and they carried them to the forest, where they were to leave them as a gift to Odinaka. But Tunde, with his prideful ways, did not join the others. Instead, he went to his farm early that morning, ignoring the ritual. He chose the finest of his crops, plump maize, full yams, and stored them in sacks. "I'll sell these in the market," he told me, as I watched him with a sense of dread. "Tundi, you must leave some for Odinaka," I warned him. "It is tradition. If we do not offer to the spirit, the harvest will not be blessed." But he laughed it off. "These old superstitions have no place in the world anymore. I'll show you that the land can provide without these rituals." I couldn't change his mind, so I returned home, feeling uneasy in my heart. That night, as I lay in bed, I heard the soft winds rustling the leaves outside. I didn't think much of it then, but now I know the wind carried whispers from the spirit world. I remember standing at the edge of the gathering, watching the elderly men and women exchange quiet words. Chief Ogbuefi, the eldest in the village, raised his hand to speak. "My people," he began, his voice heavy with the weight of years. "It has come to our attention that some among us have forgotten the old ways. The spirit of Odinaka does not bless those who do not honor the earth, who do not offer gratitude. The land speaks to us, and when we ignore its voice, it turns against us." The villagers fell silent, their eyes turning toward Tunde. He stood with his arms crossed, defiant, but the guilt was written across his face. "Chief, I didn't think it mattered," Tunde protested. "I've worked hard for my crops. I thought that was enough." "It is not enough," Chief Ogbuefi said solemnly. "We must remember that it is not only our sweat and toil that bring the harvest. It is the blessings of Odinaka and the land we must honor. If we do not, the crops will fail, and misfortune will follow." Tunde, his face pale, realized the truth of the elder's words. The following days brought more signs. The neighboring farmers' yams and maize flourished, while his fields began to wither. His cattle fell ill, and the once joyful sounds of the village grew quieter. In his desperation, Tunde went to Mama Eno, the village diviner, hoping for a solution. She was an old woman with a sharp, knowing gaze. When he arrived, she took one look at him and said, "You have angered the spirit, Tunde. The land is not yours to command. You must restore balance before it is too late." Tunde begged for forgiveness, but Mama Eno told him that the spirit of Odinaka could not be appeased with words alone. He needed to take his finest crops, those he had kept for himself, and offer them to the forest. Only then could the curse be lifted. With no choice left, Tunde did as the diviner instructed. Under the light of the full moon, he returned to the forest, carrying sacks of maize, yams, and plantains. As he placed them at the foot of the great tree where the spirit was said to dwell, he whispered an apology. The next morning, the rains began to fall, soft and steady. The land began to heal. The crops of the other villages flourished, and Tunde's farm slowly recovered, though it was never quite the same. From that day forward, Tunde became one of the strongest advocates for the village's traditions. He taught the younger farmers the importance of honoring Odinaka and giving thanks for the harvest. His pride was humbled, and the village slowly regained its rhythm. I still remember Tunde's words that day as he stood by the fire, speaking to the youth of Nkwabi. "The land gives us all that we have," he said. "We must respect it, for without its blessings, we are nothing." Now, whenever I walk past the fields during the harvest season, I think of Tunde's lesson. The village of Nkwabi still adheres to the customs of old, offering the first fruits to Odinaka, and I know that the balance between humans and the spirits of the earth must never be broken again. And so, we live in harmony with the land, ever mindful that the harvest is not just the result of our hard work, but the gift of the spirit of Odinaka, who watches over us even in our moments of doubt. This version provides a real-life, grounded storytelling experience that follows a clear narrative, deeply connected to village customs and spiritual beliefs, ensuring it captures the essence of African village life and culture. Would you like to modify or expand on any specific part?